We're developing, through technology, an ability for consumers to measure their own carbon footprint. What does that mean? That's where are they traveling? How are they traveling? What are they eating? What are they consuming on the platform? So, individual carbon footprint tracker. We don't have it operational yet, but this is something that we're working on.
Vigilantes, I am so happy to be here with ArticMine. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing really good today. I came here for a purpose of just to network and speak, and it's working very well.
Okay, so I've been here interviewing people. Can you please give us a recap on what your presentation was on today?
Okay, the basic issue is very simple. You've got a great technology. I'm going to make sure people can use it. It's that simple. If you have a great technology and nobody can use it, then what's the point? So you have to have the ability for large numbers of people to use Monero in order for its benefits to be realized. It's that simple. It's about allowing people to use it.
Right on, right on. So, excuse me. So what are the, what proposals and what do you see coming in the near future that will allow for that to actually take place?
Well, I think we're pretty much there already, and maybe some tweaks to it that are going to happen, but pretty well as far as where we are, that's happening. What then has to happen is technology has to catch up with Monero. So as technology improves and gets faster and faster, then more people can use it. For example, just before I came to this conference, till about 24 hours, I had a 1 gigabit internet connection. The upload is about 700 megabits, and I got it upgraded to a 2.5 and 2.5 gigabit internet connection. Well, that tells you the upload rate, by the way, is what determines how many people can use the network. So now that a node that I run has over 3.5 times the capability that I had before of processing transactions, just as a result of that. Now, the beauty of the Monero blockchain is that there are no fixed limits or built into the blockchain. This is the problem with Bitcoin, that they have this fixed 1 megabyte block size. So if you have a blockchain that can adapt dynamically, then as technology changes, then more people can use Monero, basically. Now, the essence, in my estimation, is in about, I would say, somewhere in a decade's time, it should be kind of roughly where Visa is on par with Visa at that point. About a decade to 12 years. Right now, what I figure is that we're looking at about our stress test model, which is 25 times the mean transaction rate, is where Visa is in the mean. So we're kind of like 25 times below what Visa is right now. And that should say, oh, you don't have to do anything to the code, but you have to just wait for the technology to catch up.
That is awesome. Do you see Monero staying ASIC resistant?
Yes. The design of RandomX makes it's a design that essentially what you do is you're using all the features of a CPU, and that makes it very ASIC resistant. So yes, I see that staying that way. There could be tweaks to it. And again, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that RandomX is tweaked simply because of technological change. But fundamentally, yes.
So you never foresee Monero ever going into ASICs?
I think it's very unlikely because you can build an ASIC in Monero. The problem is you're not going to give you that big of a gain. And even if you did, I mean, so there's enough variance in CPUs that the better CPUs are going to be better than the ASICs, and the worst ones somewhere below. So the system has variability. Yeah, so for ASIC to work, you have to have a significant gain over it. You could have something that maybe is like 1.5 times as good or something like that. But then how long is that going to last?
Right on, right on, right on, right on. So there's something to be said about how awesome RandomX has worked. It's been how long? Almost 3 years now?
Well, in 2000, the whole battle started in 2018 when it was discovered. And then what happened is was a series of changes to the fork to essentially keep the ASIC manufacturers off base until RandomX came in. So yeah, I think it was 3 years now.
And the resilience of RandomX, can you please speak to that? Because it's held its own weight over all this time.
Well, basically what it is, it uses all the capabilities of the CPU. So the idea of an ASIC is to simplify. You have a very simple subset of transactions. So you design a machine to do a very simple set of transactions. What's happened with RandomX is you've got all of this complexity of the CPU represented in what it has to do. So in order to build an ASIC, really what you end up is with a green CPU that's very energy efficient, which has all sorts of other applications other than just mining Monero.
Right on, right on, right on. So, did you follow what happened with Monero and what they had to do with their mining?
I actually didn't know what it specifically happened.
They had to change away from like mining pools, and they. Never mind.
No, I think I don't know what you're talking about. They wanted to design it so you could not mine in a pool.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Thoughts on that? Would you ever see something like that implemented in Monero?
I think a really important issue, in my view, is that we have to focus on the hashes, because the hashes actually control the mining. But a lot of people don't realize is if you're hashing through a pool and the pool starts misbehaving, it's very simple to switch to another pool. Now, I don't see Monero doing something like that. I just don't see the consensus, and I don't see the need for it, because the hashes have control. Now, there is a lot of work in peer-to-peer pools, which will effectively take the power of the pool away. So that's where Monero's direction is going.
Right on, right on. Where do you see the future of Monero?
Like in terms of adoption?
Yes.
Steady rising, pretty much. I think this year is a bit slower, but I would expect an upward trend in terms of transactional adoption.
What's going on?
Roughly about 2.5 times a year. That's been the sort of historical norm. What's going on is I think it's maturing quite a bit. I mean, the upcoming hard fork will deal with a host of it. The one I was involved with is price stabilization fee. So you don't want fees to suddenly rise up violently, and that's just what this is designed to do. So you have made the minimum penalty free zone dynamic. That was one of the main changes. Now the big one is coming, right now there's the increase the ring size to 16 from 11. That just governs the privacy. It's sort of an incremental privacy approach on it. You have efficiencies in Bulletproof Plus, again some efficiencies there. The next thing in the pipeline, of course, is Seraphis, and that's going to have some real impacts because you can have significantly higher ring sizes. It's essentially a scales as order of log n rather than order of n in terms of the number of rings. So that allows you to go to 64, 128 ring sizes. The evidence is that they have the blockchains and evidence or the chain analysis companies will not be able to break Monero. And we keep toughening it up. So now, one thing that I want to make very clear, the reason ring signatures work in Monero is because of confidential transactions. If you take confidential transactions out of the equation, ring signatures will not work. So it's a classic example where the sum is great, so the whole is greater than the sum of the spots. So when it comes to privacy, people will compare ring signatures with, say, something like secret snarks, or like the problem there is that you have to compare ring signatures plus stealth addresses plus confidential transactions. You can't just compare ring signatures by itself.
Thank you for clarifying that, because a lot of people miss that.
It's a critical point. And the point is when you're mixing, when you're running the mixing, when you're creating a ring signature, you want to be able to have a pauper and a millionaire, for example, even a billionaire, in that ring and not be able to tell them apart. So that's the big power of it. If you can see the transactional amount, you can use that to break the ring signature through transactional analysis. So what makes it is that you can mix any amount with any amount. In fact, a lot of the mixes may not even have any Monero in them. And that's what makes it powerful. If you open up and you say, we're just going to do a coin chart, it's the same problem with coin chart. Well, you can tell from looking at amount analysis what's going on. With the ring signatures before we had confidential technique, it's the same thing. Because you have to break it up into denominations and reassemble it, or you only use certain denominations and all sorts of things. And that's what allows you to analyze it. If you mix any amount with any amount, then you solve that problem. So you can't compare ring signatures by themselves with sort of a comprehensive solution as it's not just.
So right now, there's some people that say that they can foresee a future where Monero adopts ZK snarks. Others say that no, it's not necessary, and they don't foresee a future where Monero adopts ZK snarks. What are your thoughts?
Well, it comes down to the size of the mixer. I mean, if you think about the problem, you can think of ZK snarks as taking Monero's situation and the limit of the ring size goes to infinity. The problem is that you're dealing with a mix, finite number of transactions on the blockchain that you're including in that mixer. So now you turn around and say, okay, how many churns, for example, I'm going to have before I've exhausted the entire transaction base? And that's a finite number. It always will be a finite number. So the minute you start talking about ring size of 64, 128, I think it's my Seraph is probably going to end up around 128. Well, how many churns, how many times do you exponentiate that before you run out of transactions? So that's what it's really, I think, 6 or 1 1/2 dozen on the other on the screen.
Sorry, what was the last thing you said?
6 or 1 1/2 dozen on the other. It could happen if someone figures out that it's more efficient and so on and so forth. And it could not happen. I don't think it's going to have a material impact on price, to be honest.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. This is that the honesty of this community is impressive. The way you guys approach this whole process is unlike anything else in crypto. Can you please explain what it is like to see things behind the scenes and how critical and meticulous you guys are?
Well, I mean, the process of being an open source project, we don't have a paper. We don't have a founders reward. We don't have all the funds. Either you donate the money to pay a programmer, or you donate the time to do the programming, or you do a hybrid between the two where someone gets paid for less of the going rate. But it's all donated in a classic free software open source model. So that's I think it's our biggest strength from a community perspective. We have a very effective, one nice event that I really like is we started to see multiple alternatives to just the old CCS. We have, for example, the Magic Fund, and we have other things that are coming in the pipeline. And so you diversify that. You stick to your principles, and this is really important. You got to stick to your principles when you're doing. And so there's a unity of purpose. The other thing is that you actually sell what you have. I mean, you tell people this is what it does. And this is how it works, rather than trying to pretend you're something you're not. You know, I hate to say it, but I was at the Bitcoin conference. I even have my little thingy, and I was not impressed. And what bothers me is, well, you can be a bank, you can be a Cypherpunk, and I can understand the need for both, actually, and I can understand them interacting when I don't have patience for. Is for banks masquerading as cyberpunks or cyberpunks masquerading as banks. Like they're two different things that meet different purposes. There are situations where they may have to interact, but they're different approaches. And in some ways they're complementary.
Yeah, 100%. Because it is that nuance that I think a lot of people could get hurt. And the fact is that people need to be honest. If it's a transparent blockchain, be honest about its transparency. And I, what do you think about Monero community being more spoken about this? Exactly what you just said, calling this out.
Well, what I'm calling out also is before you ever worry about privacy, you gotta be able to transact. This is a fundamental problem of Bitcoin has. I mean, you can spend all this time worrying whether your transactions are private or not. Well, wait a minute, I mean, you don't even transact in the first place. Because there's no space in the box. So you want to know what's basic problem with privacy.
I agree with you 100%.
And there's more denial in Bitcoin around scaling than there is around privacy.
I agree with you 1,000%.
And this is the problem that you have, is a huge denial there because you have a fundamental design flawed project. I hate to say it, but the first problem you have is that you have to replace the falling block rules with transaction fees. There's two schools of thought, neither of which work. One is to create massive blocks with humongous numbers of transactions. This is what Bitcoin Satoshi Vision say. Bitcoin catch somewhere in between. The other end, you say, well, let's keep the block small and cause this massive rise in transaction fees. Well, neither, I believe, actually works. So it's not like one guy's wrong or the other, it's that they're both wrong.
Dynamic block size is the way that.
The only way you can do it, because the only way you can control SPAC, which is ostensibly the reason why the thing was done in Bitcoin in the first place. But the fact of the matter is, I think the real reason they wanted to do this is because they were worried about these transaction fees not going to zero and not being able to replace the block rule with transaction fees. Now, if you go into the Satoshi Bitcoin white paper, there's a phrase that says, and I'm paraphrasing, but it says the incentive will transition is what it is, transition to transaction fees. But there's no game theory, there's no reference on this point, there's no reason as to why this should happen. Now, if you're going to secure $1 trillion worth of cryptocurrency, I think the onus should be on those people that are trying to do this to tell me why this is the case. What I'm getting is, well, it's like citing authority. They don't have a case.
Yeah, and this is an aspect that people overlook about Monero. That Monero learned from what happened with Bitcoin, and the dynamic block size exists. Now, a lot of people don't know what the dynamic block size in Monero is. Could you please explain that?
Well, it's a very simple method. I mean, if you double, there's the basic median, which is the short-term median, is over 100 blocks. You can up it down, and this is roughly it's a 2-minute block, so it's about an hour, in 50 minutes. So the median increases. If you want to mine a block that's bigger than the median, you have to pay a penalty. And the penalty is a square of the percentage increase. So, for example, if I want to increase the block by 1%, I have to pay a penalty of 0.01%, which is the square of the percentage increase. If I want to increase it by, say, 10%, so it's 0.1, so now it's 0.01, and so on. So that square of this penalty, so that's what drives it. And then you have a free market of users and miners, and you can predict exactly what the fees are going to be if you make that one assumption. The only assumption you have to make is that the free market of miners interacting with users acting in an electing first best interest. That's the only assumption you need to make, and then you can calculate what the fees are going to be. And that's how the fees are determined. It's a very deterministic problem. And then what happens is, if you look at all the dynamics, first of all, you can show that what Bitcoin is saying is not going to happen. And that's actually quite an interesting byproduct of this. Because essentially what the miners are doing is that they're taking all the transactions, they're putting them in order, they're going to put the highest paid one first. And you keep adding, and when you hit the penalty, you test it against the penalty. If I had this transaction, I'd make more money in fees than I'm going to pay in penalty. And you keep doing that until the penalty exceeds the fees. So the cutoff transaction is the lowest paying transaction. And that's how the process works. And so what it does, that you can create, it makes two things. First of all, as you increase the block size, the fee and reward, the percentage of the total reward that is fees goes down, actually falls, or stays even. That's scary if you do that. So of course, like Bitcoin is fee, for example. So you predict that to go to zero. You know that these fees are not going to replace the block reward. And then the only way that you can do that is you have this very stiff block reward, and it may happen. It's going to be harder to increase the block size than in Monero. Hence the approach that BTC is taking. So they say, okay, we're going to put security ahead of actual ability to use the coin. So let's have small coins are secure, but large coins are insecure. And it's not even guaranteed that even with restricting the block size, this is going to work. So that's the fundamental problem that Bitcoin has. And then you go in and say, okay, fine, we're going to worry about transactions being private. Well, sure, you have to do that in Monero because it's actually going to be used for transactional currency. But if all you're going to do is move money from one exchange to another exchange, they're both giant government-approved mixers, there's really no point. Because all you know is, oh, some client of exchange A moved X amount of Bitcoin to exchange B, so what? If you do it correctly, it's not an issue. It is an issue when you spend that Bitcoin in a merchant, and maybe the person who paid you has a problem with where you spend that Bitcoin. Then you have a problem. And this is very serious. But without that peer-to-peer transaction, I mean, you have to be able to transact before you have to worry whether it's private or not. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes total sense. Transact on chain.
Exactly. Not what they're doing right now. This is when I get back to the bank masquerading as a cyberpunk. Is what they're doing is they're saying, okay, we're going to do all this stuff on layer 2, which is making in most cases a proprietary banking type wallet. So what they're saying is, okay, we're going to put the money into this wallet, and then we're going to move it around, fundamentally no different than a debit card or a credit card for that. So that's
wild.
That's what you're doing. And so you're saying you're one thing, but in fact you're doing something totally different. And it's very difficult to explain to people what you're trying to do. Well, of course, you're living in this lie in many ways.
Yeah, so would you say that the best second layer for BTC is PayPal?
The best second layer for BTC right now is centralized ledgers, not PayPal specifically, but in general, centralized banking type layers. That is the real second layer in BTC. And it's not things like Lightning Network or anything like that. And for example, one of the biggest ones is the centralized layers of Coinbase. And there was a really interesting story on this. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission said when you do cryptocurrency futures and contracts, etc., you have to have the ability to settle on chain. And what Coinbase said, well, wait a minute, if we do that, we cannot no longer do this because there's not enough capacity in the Bitcoin network to actually settle all the transactions that we do. So you just admit it, you can't do it on chain.
That's hilarious and very true.
So this is what you're dealing with. You're dealing with this idea that you can transact on decentralized ledgers, which is no different fundamentally than a banking transaction using debit, and expect somehow different treatment from regulators, which is a core issue that people are saying in the European Union. All the European Union is saying if you're going to have a bank, you're going to be regulated like a bank. And all these people in the Bitcoin community are freaking out over this because what they expect is the bank to somehow send money without doing KYC to somebody else. They don't know. Well, that bank cannot do that. You may disagree with it, but it's no different than doing it with euros or dollars or whatever.
Yeah, this is wild. It's almost as if they're transacting a simulation of BTC. That's just regulated.
Well, that's what they're doing is they're transacting a banking system. Maybe there's no fractional reserve on the exchange. Some people say there is. But they're transacting a banking system which is fundamentally no different than banking transactions which are debit-based. And they're calling it something else. And somehow on the regulators to treat them differently, when in fact they're doing the same thing as the banks are.
Yeah, this is wild. And I'm so happy that this conference is happening and that people in the Monero community are speaking up. And because are you feeling frustrated? Because this makes me very frustrated to hear them say that because now you hear BTC people saying that in this past week, someone and they came out, so it's okay to call them out. Like Andres Antonopoulos saying that BTC is more fungible than Monero because there's more liquidity.
Well, that's also not true. I mean, the fungibility problem in BTC is that it's all exposed, you can track it. I do think, however, that also the blockchain surveillance companies are selling snake oil in many ways. They say they can track these transactions and accurately, in the vast majority of cases they cannot. So the snake oil on that side also. There are very rare cases when they can actually have reasonable certainty that they have what they have. And here's the problem. Let's say you're going to look at US currency. So you're going to test it for cocaine. You're going to find that it's possible for cocaine. Fine. What use is that to law enforcement if you do not know who put the cocaine there? And that's the large degree of having transactions on a Bitcoin Russia. So the real risk in many cases is being falsely accused. In fact, and Monero Policy Group, when we made a presentation to response to the European Union and for the European Commission, we actually explained a scenario where people being framed that are totally innocent for essentially acts of terrorism, and all you had to do is 2 transactions of off-chain that were criminal. So instead of just doing, you extort the keys from the merchant, and you do that off-chain. So as far as what you see on chain is, well, there's nothing there, because it didn't happen the way it did. And then you sell it off-chain, you sell the private key to another criminal, and that doesn't show on the chain either. So it looks like this innocent couple actually paid for this act of terrorism.
Wow. So
I mean, there's fake on both sides on this issue.
yeah, that's wild. It's beyond words at this moment right now for why people still say BTC is private at all, or Ethereum, because I at this state in the game, it makes no sense for anyone to be arguing for logical conclusions that would lead one to Monero.
It's worse than it's not private. It's the worst thing that good surveillance is bad surveillance. So if you've got bad surveillance was making false accusations, that's even worse than surveillance actually accurate. So it's worse than that. And this is the problem. Honestly, I have a fear of using Bitcoin on chain. And it got to the point where, I would just use my credit card to pay for the Bitcoin conference. I did not want to be falsely accused.
Yeah, I think you're right. Wow.
If they got hacked, why would I want to take that risk?
That's intense. I never thought about that, but you're right.
Because how do you know the person who's receiving that Bitcoin is not going to get compromised? You see, that's the problem. If I send you Bitcoin, and then somebody steals that Bitcoin from you, like say extorting you out of the private key, that doesn't happen on chain. They have the Bitcoin, you're under fear of some physical harm if you do anything with the Bitcoin. Then this criminal goes and sells it to a terrorist. And that terrorist then goes and commits an act of terrorism. All the blockchain surveillance companies, the chain analysis companies see is you actually spend the money at that act of terrorism. They're not going to see that you actually were innocent because people are not measured. And you have no control about this. So this is the real threat. It's not just that you're not protected as private, but you're going to falsely accused of serious criminal activity or terrorist activity.
Yeah, don't use Bitcoin.
The only place to use Bitcoin safely is if you only sell it, withdrawing from a KYC exchange to another KYC exchange, and you have legal recourse against the exchanges in case that they claim that they can hack or whatever, you can sue them. That's maybe how you can do it. But you definitely don't want to send Bitcoin to anybody you don't know. Because how do you know they're not going to get hacked? And then you're going to be falsely accused. So it's not as just as bad as it's not private. It's that you can actually get in real trouble.
What do you? Okay, so let's talk about El Salvador because they really just gave the nation of El Salvador a mass surveillance system.
Well, what it is, and it's a perfect example. Was a second layer, closed source wallet, on top of which is controlled by the government, it's an American corporation, as a second-tier solution. It's fundamentally no different from a banking solution based on Bitcoin. So what you're doing is you're not transacting on the Bitcoin blockchain. You're transacting on a proprietary wallet, which the government has access to and company and state controls. And it's no different from the banks. A big difference. There is a difference in the banks. You don't have the regular checks and balances. You have a typical banking. So you get the worst of both worlds. So you're defeating the whole point of Bitcoin. I mean, the whole point of Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer transactional system. So now what do you have? In order to replace the bank, so that it behaves like cash in a digital form. That was why this thing was created. So what do you have now? You have the very thing you're supposed to replace is what it's become. And somehow we're supposed to believe this thing has all this value. And, honestly, and when I look at what Warren Buffett says, what criticizes, I think the guy's bang on this.
What he said? What specifically?
Well, he said that Bitcoin was flat poison square. Well, I do a Cypherpunk. Well, you're a bank. So if you're a bank, you're going to be regulated. What's the point?
So the Bitcoiners are the new banksters.
Well, they're worse because they're pretending to be cyberpunks. The banksters pretending to be cyberpunks.
Oh.
That's what, and this is why they get into trouble with organizations like the European Commission. And then they're hiding behind these chain analysis companies as part of the problem too. So yeah, I mean, I'm very controversial here, but I just cannot mince my words on this issue.
No. I thank you, because this is what we all should be talking about. I don't know if I got into a debate with Tone Bays.
Yes, I know about Tone Bays. I'll tell you a story about, I listened to one of his talks, and he said you cannot put the Monero blockchain on a phone.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Now, I started listening to the talk, so this is interesting. So I went out, I was in Vancouver, and I searched for it, and found this 1 terabyte SD card. Got into the car, drove to, I think it was Chilliwack or something like that, bought this thing and stuck it in my phone. There's more than enough space to put the Monero blockchain. Oh, you can also throw in the Bitcoin blockchain. Just on top of that. So, I mean, I don't know what it's, but if you was talking about technology in 2018, I haven't looked at Monero. Well, Monero is not staying still. Neither is the technological change, which is what I spoke about today. It does not stay still. If you look at for example, if you look at since the debate started, I think in 2010, 1 megabyte of data is roughly equivalent today to 130 megabytes of data. So they're debating this stuff, but the technology is not shaking. It's not staying still. Like, I'm a baby boomer, and one of the slides that I had was a warehouse full of punch cards, like IBM punch cards, and it's this massive warehouse about equivalent of 0.4 gigabytes of data. Once you figure out the formatting limitations of the punch cards and all this kind of stuff. This is a massive warehouse. I was in old at that time. I was 2 years old. And this is what people don't realize. I mean, they're talking about abstracts. They're not sitting down, crunching the numbers, and saying, what's this all about? Like, I used to be a Bitcoiner until I realized that the thing was just, there was huge disconnect between what they were saying and what they were actually doing. And this was back in 2014, 2015. So I did the only sane thing, what's a free market response, which is simply to sell my Bitcoin for Monero. And I did not do it because of privacy, I did it because of scale.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay. I mean, are you really, if you're going to be a bank, be a bank. But don't pretend you're a cyberpunk.
Thank you. Thank you so
You're
much.
very welcome. I mean, that's what I came here to do.
No. I thank you so much. Because it's this honesty that really is gonna move us forward. It really is.
I have to call a spade a spade. I mean, I cannot sit back and talk about people that telling me one thing and doing something else. I have no patience for it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, me either. I lost my composure debating with Tone Bays 2 days ago.
Oh, Tom Bates.
Yeah, I couldn't. I just can't sit in front of someone that, I mean, I don't know if he's lying or if he's just ignorant, but it's just being dishonest.
No, but
He should know better.
But the about Tom Bates is he's looking at the bulk of the altcoin market, and what he's saying is that on average, if you go for an altcoin, you're gonna do worse than with Bitcoin. That is actually true.
Oh,
Now,
not really.
there happen to be a few exceptions. One of them is Monero.
Monero, yes.
Yeah, but that's one little coin, and but there's a huge portfolio. So if you were to buy a big portfolio of altcoins, one of them being Monero, you're gonna lose money versus you go long Bitcoin, short all these altcoins. You're gonna lose money on Monero, but you might make it about a whole bunch of other things, and so your portfolio is gonna go up. So he's got a point. But you gotta look at the specifics. Ethereum is another one that didn't behave according to what he said. But there are very few that meet that criteria. Dogecoin surprised everybody. It caught them off grabs. So I mean, he's making this assumption that he's extrapolate everything, but it's not happening.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, but like I said, when I listened to him, I think it was last year, and he's went ahead and bought this 1 terabyte SD card, which I didn't use in my talk today.
So, like, you even use it today?
Oh yeah, I got a picture of the thing. And the first slide was a punch cards. And then it said it was 2,500 warehouses full of punch cards. The second slide is this SD card. Well, it's a terabyte of data. And I was comparing a 2-year-old baby boomer, like myself, with a 2-year-old Gen Alpha, someone 2-year-old today. And this is the change in the technological change.
So we can scale on chain.
Oh, you bet we can. Yeah, like this is what I'm saying. You can scale on chain. We get in there, and you have to get to pieces level. I figure about what it is.
So there is some research done on the Lightning Network by Monero contributors, like Pedro Sanchez. Has there been any talks since he put out his paper?
Okay, well, this concludes, gentlemen, from that.
The Lightning Network is open to myriad types of civil attacks.
Yes, the most easiest one is the fact making it impossible to do what's called a justice transaction by spamming the fees. That's the simplest one. Essentially, what you do is you drive the fee above the value of what's in the channel, and then you spam it that way. That's how you get around that.
Wow.
But that's a fundamental. That's again back to this problem. The base layer has this cannot scale. So that's an example of that. I mean, I've looked at the Lightning Network. I think this doesn't work. It's a promise, but it's a promise based on a falsehood. Read the Lightning paper. It was written about, I think, 2016, something around that. It specifically says you need, I think it was 100 megabyte blocks or something. I don't know if this thing will work. It does not work with 1 megabyte blocks, which is based on the assumptions. So even if people are promoting the Lightning Network, they stop by reading the Lightning paper.
It's wild that what we're going through in crypto, and yeah.
I mean, this is why I expect a lot of turmoil in the markets. I don't want to be sounding like a bear or something. I don't know what's going to happen. I actually think that we're going to see, we may see a lot of disruption. I don't know. We've seen a double top in Bitcoin. What's it going to continue? I just don't see this continuing because I think it's a disconnect between what it's doing and what it's saying.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, but we're here to set the record straight. And if you don't like that, too bad, because we are here seeking what is best for everyone. And we can only just be honest, and we're not going to commit intellectual suicide and do otherwise.
I made my choice in 2014, 2015. I used to own my Bitcoin from Monero.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.